Coming up, I'm covering Strength Training 101 for distance runners. I'm Aaron Robinette, head coach of Athletic Power and Performance. Don't be a piece, train holistically. If you like the information on this video and you want more on distance running, go over to my channel and check out the series on distance running. And for my latest uploads, subscribe to my channel. As I get into Strength Training 101, before I get into that in the details, I want to get into the reasons why many people choose running for an activity. The two most common reasons are to improve health and to lose weight. This is very important to know before we get into the details of Strength Training 101 for distance runners. So when we understand the motivation of why a person runs, we can understand why someone may not want to strength train for running. Now, there's a fear of bulking up, getting too big or getting too cumbersome, adding weight. So this can be for actual weight loss and fear of not being able to lose weight, but it can also be for a performance standpoint. Many people think, well, if I bulk up, I get stronger, I get bigger, I'm going to be too heavy to run and perform. However, as I get into this, it's going to be in the details of why that won't be the case as long as you have the right details to your strength training program. So to get a little further into the details of how this happens with people when they lift weights, it's with the wrong variables. So first of all, they train in isolation. Training in isolation only benefits bodybuilders because bodybuilders can bulk up, they can isolate their biceps outside of the rest of the body. To train properly, you want to work in integration. So you want to work multiple body parts together. This way you can actually take that function and translate it into the distance running. The other factor is having the correct variables, which I'm going to get into shortly. Having the right number of reps, having the right number of sets, and the right load really goes a long way into training you either to be a faster runner and get leaner, or to bulk up and really slow you down. So having the right variables really goes a long way into improving your running. Strength training really provides the distance runner a lot of advantages, provided you do the proper reps, sets, and all the other variables. Also, you have the proper form and technique. So first of all, strength training improves your posture. Having good posture really improves the ability for the body to dissipate any force, every force through every stride in running, all the way through the entire body. If you have poor posture, that force really targets specific areas. So for example, if you have poor posture, the force at every stride you run can actually target, for instance, your knee. And all that force goes through the knee, and eventually the knee starts breaking down because that force is not distributed through the entire body. It actually goes primarily through the knee. So having good posture really improves and really reduces injury risk. Strength training stabilizes unstable areas of the body. Strength training strengthens weak areas of the body, which again improves posture and improves your ability to dissipate all the force from running through the entire body instead of, again, hitting specific areas of the body. Strength training improves your functional range of motion. So when you strength train through a full range of motion, you have, again, full range of motion through your body. This improves static and dynamic posture as well. Finally, strength training increases your strength endurance. So there's a difference between strength endurance and just regular endurance. Endurance is the ability to run for a long period of time and your lungs don't get tired. Strength endurance is the ability to run for a long period of time and your posture does not get worse throughout the range of motion or throughout the run. So this improves your ability to dissipate the force through a longer portion of your run. It also improves your ability to run a longer stride and keep your stride rate at a higher rate throughout your entire run. In general, you want to use integrative exercises, as I've said earlier in this video. And the difference between integrative is the other one is isolative exercises. I kind of mentioned this earlier, but it's like using a bicep preacher curl and you're isolating the bicep and none of the other stabilizers are working. So in general, you want to use integrative exercises. The exception to this is when you have weak areas and those weak areas cannot develop stronger because other muscles are taking over. In that particular case, you do want to isolate the muscle for a period of time, get that muscle stronger, and then reintegrate it with the movement. In those times, again, make sure once you've gotten the muscle strong, you want to integrate it with the movement. So integrative muscle or integrative exercises, they're essentially where you have to use your own stabilizers. Any exercise where you have freedom of movement, you also have to use your own stabilizers to do that movement. So for instance, an isolated exercise using the chest would be like a chest barbell press. You have a little bit of integration, but you have stabilization with the bench, you have stabilization with the bar. Doing a dumbbell chest press on the Swiss ball would be much more integrative, and you're having to use a lot more stabilizers, and your muscles are working in unison together much more effectively. Going into the variables that you want to use, in general, you want to use 12 to 20 repetitions at 3 sets, and you also want to use a rest period of anywhere from a minute on less. So modifying these variables, the higher number of reps you use, the more strength and endurance you're going to be developing. The lower in the rep range, and even within the 12 to 20 rep range, the more bulk you're essentially going to be building, and the more strength you're actually going to be building in that case. But when we're talking about distance running, you want to start guiding a little bit more towards a higher rep range because you want to build more strength endurance. The other key factor, as I mentioned, the rest time. The more you cut the rest time down between sets, the more you're going to be developing strength endurance. This is going to be a little bit more cardiovascular building with this, and it's got to be developing more lean muscle tissue as well. The type of event and the distance of your event really changes how you're going to modify those rep ranges. So the 12 to 20 rep range, as well as how you're going to adjust and modify the rest period. If you're going for a shorter event, so let's say a 5K, a 10K, even a half marathon, you may want to go into a shorter rep range with the little bit longer rest period relative to if you're going to a marathon or even the ultra marathons or longer events like that, where you want a higher rep range and shorter rest periods. The other key factor I want to mention with this, with the variables, is you can also do things like doing supersets, which is taking 2 exercises at once and going back and forth. And you want exercises where they complement each other or they don't fatigue the same area. Complementing each other would be doing like a chest exercise with a pulling or a back exercise. And then the other way is doing an upper body exercise with a lower body exercise. So you're not fatiguing the 2 areas at once. You're fatiguing an upper body and then a lower body. You can go back and forth. The other way you can modify this and manipulate this is doing something more of a circuit training. So you're going from one exercise to the other, and let's say you're doing 10 to 12 exercises with no rest in between. Again, you want that 12 to 20 repetition range, and you go from one exercise to the next, all the way through. The key thing to be careful of with this is make sure you're able to do full range of motion and you're able to do the exercise without fatiguing and breaking down your ability to do that with proper form and technique. The final note I want to give you with this whole video is when you're doing strength training, there is a thought process out there, especially with someone that wants to lose weight, and especially with someone that doesn't want to gain mass. There's a thinking in there that, well, as long as I don't push myself, I don't really have to work during the strength training, I just kind of do it, and I do it at an easy rate, then I'm not going to bulk up. It's the variables that make the difference, not the how much you push or not. And the thing is you want to push yourself not to fatigue, not to where your form and technique are breaking down, but just below that point. So you want to train yourself to where you still have 2 good repetitions in you, but you're training yourself to the point where you can actually get yourself, push yourself, and then like I said, you have 2 reps left, but then you stop at that point. So you don't do repetitions where you're breaking down your form and technique and you train yourself to do bad form. You want to make sure, again, you have those 2 reps. But you want to push yourself. And the key is if you're going to, let's say, 15 to 20 repetitions and you really get into that point where you're fatiguing, your muscles are really getting a lot of action, you're training them to be lean. You're training the slow twitch muscle fibers, which are the longer, leaner muscle fibers, to really be engaged and really get strong, versus the bulk The bulkier muscles are the fast twitch muscle fibers, which you go a lot lower repetition range to train those. So don't be afraid to push yourself, but make sure you get in the right repetition range. If you find yourself to the point where you're actually fatiguing before you get to the 12 to 20 repetition range, lower the rate, lower the resistance level, and to the ability where you can actually increase the reps. For more information on exercise selection, check out my series over on my channel for distance runners. For more guidance and information on taking your athletics to the next level, get a copy of my book, Athlete Unleashed, a holistic approach to unleashing your best inner athlete. You can find Athlete Unleashed on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Google Play, and Apple iTunes. Pick up a copy today.